Okay, just trying to get the lighting a little bit better here. Megablurg. Okay, what's up? It's Drew. It's been a little while since I've done one of these previews, and I just want to run through what's coming up on Patreon this week and what's coming up in the main feed this week. And if anybody wants to pop into the chat on YouTube and ask questions, definitely I'll be here for about I don't even know how long. So what is coming up this week? Hey CH, I'm just going to click away from YouTube for a second. So we've got coming up on Patreon tonight. We had Start With This crossover episode for $5 and up patrons. It's an ad-free, jingle-free episode. Monday night for all patrons, so $5 and up patrons and people that became dollar patrons a while back. We have story-only episode from episode 732, so it's basically an all-intro episode. On Tuesday night, we also have all intros from 733. Wednesday night, $5 and up patrons get Big Farm in the Sky episode 8. Episode 8. $10 and up patrons on Thursday night get an all intro episode from episodes 420 to 424, and Friday night is $10 and up patrons get a story only episode 356 from episode 356 pond swimming and newspaper delivery. The PJ Pants and the Floyd Tanker in our merch store. So as the weather gets warmer, that's up. And then in the main feed tonight is episode 757, Magic Masquerade Mystery. It's Big Farm in the Sky, episode 7 or 6, maybe it's episode 6. It's a cool episode. And then Wednesday night will be in the main feed. Will be episode 758, which will be part 2 of the 2-part Doctor Who episode. I forget, Age of Steel, I think it was called in the main feed. I mean, in the show. Let's see. Then next Sunday will be episode 760. Is that right? 758, 759, 760. And then make sure to pay attention to your feed on April 1st. We got something we're testing out on April 1st. I think that's it. I'm back. It popped over to YouTube here. Let's see who we got here. CH, Melissa, H to the J, hi. Alex, hi. Oh, Melissa likes the PJ Pants. I'm still trying. They've been sold out, so I'm still waiting to get mine. I got 2 things from listeners recently. This coconut candies from Kathleen that are kind of like the coconut M&Ms. Hey, Rajo, is that how you say that? Alex, I'm glad I helped you sleep. And I also got this cool bracelet with the stone from Lake Ontario. Cool, I think that's it. I did, let's see. I don't see any other chat. So yeah, hit me with any questions, but that's what's coming up this week on Patreon and in the main feed. And I'm not going to be able to do one of these next week, but I try to do these whenever I can. Anybody hit me with any questions? I will answer a question. I don't know how it came up on Facebook. There is no plan in the main feed to get rid of the credits music. I don't know if that was a rumor that started or it was just some people that listen all night. The credits music does wake them up. I mean, the main issue is keeping the podcast free, right? It's not free. The podcast is free to consume. It's not free to make or to distribute. And the free podcast feed is ad supported. It's the only feasible way. Hey, Will, to keep it free. It's not just, and it's ad supported from advertisers that want people to hear their ads, and also the people that work on the show. I don't know. I think the credit song's fun and a big part of the spirit of the show. I realize if people listen to 8 episodes in a row, it doesn't make a perfect experience, but that's why there's the Patreon without the stuff. Like, there's no way for me feasibly to support on the free podcast people that listen all night long. I tried that with it's just the show in order to keep it free and outside of a paywall, which has always been my goal. Is the sponsors are a huge part of that, and I really love that we have the sponsors to do that, to keep the podcast for free for everybody, because instead of being just a paid service. And the credits music is kind of just part of the beginning of the show. But I realize it's a trade-off, but it's a trade-off to keep the show free for the maximum amount of people. And I know not everybody can afford to become a $5 patron. And I guess it's kind of like a reverse situation. Like, I can't afford to keep the podcast ad-free and out there for the hundreds and for the millions of times it gets downloaded a month. I don't have a cat. I'm allergic to cats, CH. I have a dog, but no cat. My dog was just scratching though. Is that why you asked? But if anybody has any questions, I'll be here for like 15 minutes or so to answer any questions. I'm glad. Is that Demon? How long in advance do I record new episodes that come out? I mentioned it several times. It kind of changes. I mean, how long in advance? Let's see. So this week I have scheduled, I'd have to look to dig in, but the schedule off my top of my head is record Big Farm in the Sky, PI, either episode 10 or episode 12, kind of depending. So that's pretty far ahead. It's not as far ahead as I'd like to be. And then record a Trending Tuesday episode. That would be about 6 episodes ahead. So it's about 2 months ahead. And then also some parts of Game of Thrones episodes that are coming up. I think I still have to do intros for Game of Thrones episode 4, 5, and 6, and Tommen and Pounce segments for 4, 5, and 6. So in a perfect world, I'd work like maybe I'd be 3 months ahead. But I think, what is that? 8, 16, 24 episodes. I prefer to have at least 16 episodes because there's a lot of other stages to get the shows ready before they come out, and then the pre-production. So does that answer that question? Usually I'd say 2 months is roughly how far we work ahead. But then there's episodes that we do fast turnarounds on. And that's actually like working ahead allows me to kind of say, oh, wait a second. This new podcast just came out from Night Vale Presents, and I didn't have an idea for it initially. Then I had an idea this week. I think last week that just passed. And so I recorded an episode and we did a fast turnaround, and that'll come out in another week. For Start With This, it's a new Night Vale podcast. It's a kind of a writing and creation-based creativity playground podcast. It's on Night Vale Presents Start With This. Good night, Demon. Thaman, I'm glad your wife, thank your wife for me. Will, I'm glad I put you to sleep so fast. Mini Stick, let me know if that answers your question. Yeah, if I get like I like to take like 2 weeks off for recording a year or 3 weeks, So being ahead, it enables me to do that without being too stressful about thinking about it. Or if I get sick or something, having that much recorded, it also gives me the freedom to kind of move stuff around and say, oh, or even to be like, I don't know if, like, I had an episode that I recorded recently, and it's not for a few months anyway, but I was like, I don't know if this episode, I was like, oh, is this I don't know. It's just part of all the work that goes into the show. Anybody else have any questions, or you can answer another question if anybody else has one. Sorry, I don't know how loud my candy chewing is, but wouldn't do this on the regular podcast. I got a Goonie shirt on. I got that for a gift. Somebody gave me that as a gift for my birthday a couple months ago. Any other questions? Who wins the NCAA? I have not checked. I've been working a lot, so I don't know. I thought Michigan. I just checked the TV because I thought Michigan State was going to go to the Final Four, and they're getting destroyed. Or maybe they already lost, and that was a recap. So, because I have a lot of friends that are Michigan State fans, but I don't know. I think probably Duke or it seems like they're the preferred team, right? Oh, go ahead, Aqua Rabbit. Hey, Manny. Oh, UNC Tar Heels. Okay. Thank you. How much are sleep phones? They have sleep. I don't know off the top of my head, but there's 3 different models of sleep phones: corded, Bluetooth, and then the wireless ones. The wireless ones we sell through our store on sleepwithmepodcast.com/shop. I think those are $149. I think the Bluetooth are $99. You can go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep phones, and then the corded pair are around $50. Let's see, Aqua Rabbit. I don't know my Myers-Briggs off the top of my head. I always like INFJ, maybe. I don't know. I think that's probably it, but I'm not 100% positive. It's been a while since I've taken it. Elise, I'm glad I could help. Yeah, Aqua Rabbit. I probably need to retake it, but INFJ sounds right. Gotta thank you. Can't sleep. Happy to help, Manny. Favorite Kurt Russell film? Oh well, that's good. I mean, I just saw Guardians 2 for the second time. I don't think that's my favorite Kurt Russell. I mean, I think Big Trouble in Little China probably. I think I saw that in the theater within the last 7 years in San Francisco. Though I can't think of the last time I saw Escape from New York, so I haven't seen that in a long time. And thanks for getting those sleep pants. I'm glad they're comfortable. Anybody else have any questions? Any other questions? Is everybody that's a patron has your RSS feed set up? If you don't, you could go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/Patreon FAQ to set that up. What else is going on? So Start With This just came out. That's a new podcast from Joseph and Jeffrey at Night Vale Presents. I'm trying to think what else. I saw this isn't bedtime material, but I saw that new movie, Jordan Peele's new movie, but I won't talk about it too much. I saw it in IMAX. It was cool, very cool. Oh, I don't know, Morty. Thanks for saying my voice is beautiful, though. Sophie, struggle to fall, stay asleep. It's gotten. Well, I'm glad I could help, Sophie. What kind of vintage cartoons are you into? I don't know. I mean, I've been what's that? Scooby Doo's come up a few times. I guess that's vintage at this point. But I haven't rewatched any of the old Scooby Doo. I do like, I do like what's that? Wile E. Coyote. I just don't have so much time on my hands to watch as much. Probably would watch more vintage cartoons. I still do 2 Trending Tuesdays, even though they don't come out on Tuesdays. They only come out on Wednesday and Wednesdays and Sundays. But I still do them. And I'm just kind of depends on. I don't use Twitter for the trends anymore. Sean's wondering where my accent is from. So Stan, the character Stan, has a Chicago accent, but my accent's from upstate New York. In Syracuse, New York. I'm losing my voice. But Syracuse is kind of has a Midwest twinge to it. So that's like probably where it gets the Chicago, Minnesota kind of accent twist to it. Aqua Rabbit just went to Disneyland. That's cool. Yeah, Ray loves Disneyland. I got Ray. I had been trying to get some Ray stuff recorded. He's got a recording booked, but it's not for a couple more weeks. I don't have Annis cough drops right now. I have these coconut candy. I ate all those Annis cough drops. I'm gonna have to buy some more. Man, but yeah, those were good. I'm glad you're listening. Yeah. So did you go to California Adventure? They're building like a Marvel land there, I guess. I don't know how long. And then that Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is supposed to open in like 6 months or something. Dylan the Awesome. I'm committed the whole time for all of PodX, but I don't know the schedule yet of the when the live show will be. They haven't told me, but whatever the days of PodX are, I think the 30 days past September, April, June, and November. Is that right? So May 31st, June 1st, and 2nd, I think, is the days of the conference or the PodX. And you can go to podx.com/sleep. But yeah, I don't have the date of the live show. But it'll be cool. I'm still trying to work on, I guess they don't have AV, like a projector. So I'm trying to work on something to have a visual element to it. I don't know how big the room's going to be. But it should be pretty cool. I've been working on the live show. And yeah, let's see. Oh, you listened to it before you went. That's cool. Yeah, Kathleen. I try to get these in when I can. Elise, do I listen to podcasts in my own time? I do. I was like, so yesterday I had a drive, like a 3-hour drive, and I was gonna listen to all the episodes of Dream Boy in a row. Because sometimes I like to listen to podcasts like 2 or 3 times. And then like I got on the road, I had everything queued up, and then my phone would not communicate with the car no matter what I tried. Like I tried plugging it in, I tried Bluetooth, I tried the headphone jack. And so I was driving for like an hour and a half with like a phone full of podcasts to listen to. And I didn't listen to anything. So then I stopped. I recorded some audio, and then I was like, oh, I'll record an episode with Ray while I drive for the next hour since I can't listen to anything. And then the microphone I had, like it was a lapel mic, that wouldn't work. But it was a beautiful day to be driving, so it wasn't all a bummer. But yeah, it was the worst. I was like, oh man, I'm going to get all these episodes of Dream Boy in back to back to back. So that's one. I'm getting ready to start with this. Everything is Alive is in their 2nd season. Those have been really good. What else? I'm looking at my phone right now. I like Rob has a podcast, the Survivor Know-It-Alls, because I watch Survivor, and Josh Wigler and Rob are really nice. They're really nice to the show. What else? Who Weekly. That's in my queue here. Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's. Punch Up the Jam. Is This Adulting? Good Morning Night Vale. Throughline. Recode Media. Song Exploder. Brains On. Radio Survivor. Reply All. 99PI. Terrible Thanks for Asking. How Sound. Script Notes. Within the Wires. Oh, we must have had a bonus episode come out. Oh, live show announcement. We got this. Flash forward. My brother, and me. Got a lot more in here, but that's just a few. But yeah, what are you gonna do? Sometimes you're the podcast maker. Sometimes you're the podcast listener, and sometimes you don't get to listen to your podcast. I didn't listen to the radio though. Let's see, where was I? Oh, Aqua Rabbit. That's good. So I'm glad it helped you plan. That's cool. All right, Manny. Hope you have a good day at work. Seabass. Cole's pretty good. She, I was gone for a couple days, and she took a trip, but tripped the person who was walking her, but neither one of them, they just got scraped. So she's pretty good. We just got home from a walk a little while ago. She's sleeping now. So pretty good. I'm trying to stay calm. You know, Scoots. I'm always trying to stay calm. It's an interesting time in podcasting. So it's an interesting time to be a podcaster. And like I kind of said at the top of the show, it's like, man, really important for me to try to keep the show free. So it's like there's all this stuff happening in podcasting. And there's a big group of us that are like, oh, we want to see if we can keep our podcast free, or is that going to work? So I tend to overthink everything. Sean, so Sean at for the live shows I sing it. All right, good night, Elise. Let's see. My singing is terrible, but yeah, for the live shows I've been singing it. Chris Posterson from Sounds Like an Earful wrote the theme song and edits episodes. Carl W's a legend, also edits episode. Kenny, Scotty, and Jennifer on our artwork. Eric and the team at Astounders on the website. I am the mystery bard. I do lullabies, yeah. Got an album. My album out. No, I can. You got a copy at jonathanband.net. Also, I made a longer version of the credits, yeah. Then what comes next? You see the kindest. Is that what comes next? You see the kind is shy, straight on, kindness shine straight on through. The listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Laura, Julie, Keith, Laura, Julie, and Jennifer. These are our not Sarah, and these are our moderators. You can support Tier Scooter on Patreon, buy the merch, or support the sponsors. You can find anything you want. Sleepwithmepodcast.com. We're so proud we could dance to be a part of Night Vale Presents. So now on with the show. So it's pretty good. Pretty good. I mean, I listen to it a lot because I do the final mix on the episodes. Yeah. Any other questions? I got a few more minutes. If people have questions, hit me up. Any other questions you're wondering about? Did I know Jonathan or Chris before I started the podcast? No, Kathleen. So these are good stories. Anybody else want answering these? If you have any questions, hit me. So let's see. Chris Posterson. I think. Let's see. How did we first meet each other? I mean, we've never met in person, but I think either we were both on the Reddit, one of the Reddit podcasting groups, and then I listened to his podcast and I thought it was really good. When his original podcast was called Sounds Like an Earful. And then at some point on Reddit, he was offering his services to make theme songs for podcasts, and he made the theme song for this podcast. Then I kept listening to his podcast. I thought he was really talented. And then I was hoping, because I was really, really buried with a full-time day job and trying to put the podcast out 3 times a week, that I could find someone to edit episodes. And so I was like, man, do you think you could ever edit episodes? Like, what would the price be? So then I started budgeting. Then I started the Patreon, and the Patreon gave me enough to pay him to do 1 episode a week. Then it gave me enough to pay 2 episodes a week. And then I don't know if I ever got to the point where, and then I started paying him to do the deluxe episodes. And then I don't think that ever got to the place where I could give him. It's also like the pay that you get to edit an episode versus like it would have, like, then I met Carl and he started editing a 3rd episode a week. And yeah, so that's how I got to know Chris Posty Posterson. Carl W., who edits episodes, I met at a podcast meetup, and he said, I'm looking to edit podcast episodes. Jonathan Mann, I probably heard about him from Song a Day. Then I listened to this podcast, ATP, and he does the songs for ATP similar to what he does for Sleep With Me. And then I just was like, I love these songs. And then he heard me on Gimlet's podcast with Brittany Luce called whatever. It was a podcast about podcasts, which the name escapes me. But Brittany Luce was the host, and he heard that, and then he said, "Hey, do you ever think like?" And then we just met through that. Have you considered a weighted blanket in the merch store? We've trying to get a weighted blanket sponsor. It's just really hard to get sponsors for Sleep With Me. So definitely would like a weighted blanket sponsor. But it's like, it's been tough. And then having it in the merch store, it would mean us buying the merchandise wholesale. And then it's like, well, how customizable is it? So it is something I would love as a sponsor of the show, or if there was a weighted blanket company that could do something. I guess it's like the weighted blankets are so customizable, it'd be really hard at for the merch store. Just because there's different sizes and different things, and that's just not something we have the cash. Like, we're not in a position to do that kind of outlay to do that. But yeah, it is something. We're close with one company, and I don't know what happened. And I've been emailing with somebody recently, but a lot of times it's like people don't necessarily, when they find out how many people listen to Sleep With Me, it kind of blows their mind. And so they're usually surprised. And then I think we're still in this kind of podcasting, while it's really respected, like, I don't understand like why the podcast advertising isn't more valued. Like, we don't get any credit, podcast advertising, we don't get any brand building credit. So it's like, it's always like compared more to like Facebook ads or Google AdWords, and it's like, well, you're supporting an entire community of sleepless people. But yeah, hopefully one day we'll get a weighted blanket sponsor. I mean, I use a weighted blanket now every night. I use it like I lay it on my legs, or stick my feet under it. So yeah, hopefully. And to answer your question in a long, winding way, Mary, I hope the podcast helps you fall asleep. Kathleen, did that answer your questions about Jonathan and Posty? But yeah, Jonathan and I emailed each other, and then we talked on the phone, and then we've kind of been through different phases, of trying to do more, trying to get sponsors and do the Lulla jingles, and trying to do the credit song, and kind of trying to find more ways to get them on the show, but actually get him compensated too. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm here. It's bedtime, and it's like 1 a.m. in Ireland. It looks like it's 9 p.m. in the East Coast. So I'll put everybody to bed. if there's any more questions, last call. I'd like if you could get on the Rick and Morty episode. Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Yeah, I mean, our Sleep With Me has a lot of listeners, so it's like we're in pretty it's like, and people are so good about spreading the word about the podcast. We've been really lucky. But yeah, Rick and Morty is a pretty funny show. I guess I'm like too much like Morty though, so it'd be confusing personality wise. Thanks, Aqua Rabbit. Cool. Any other questions? This is when I sing for the podcast, but I already sang the theme song. I don't even know what I'm having for dinner tonight. Went to the store and got some potting soil and repotted some plant. I got pots last week. Is that what they're called? Oh, my phone's buzzing. But yeah, so I have had a busy day today. I'm going to work on some episodes later on. I appreciate everybody that spreads the word, supports the sponsors, listens to the podcast, asks questions. I really, really appreciate it. I'm really happy the podcast can put all of you to sleep. And yeah, if anybody's got a burning question, hit me with it. I'll count down. 10, 9. This might be like this. Otherwise, you could fall asleep to this. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Yes, potting soil is a very nice smell. What plants did I repot today? It's a good question. So the Trader Joe's had these. What were they even called? General foliage plants they were selling like maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I think that's what they were called. They're all different plants, and they were only labeled general foliage. And I bought, let's see, I can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over about a two or three grocery store trips. I wish I'd bought more, to be honest with you, because they're all still alive. They're all different ones. Like 2 of them look like they could be rubber trees. 2 of them are like these big flowing palms. They've all done well. Another 2 have these like little small green leaves with white speckles on them. And another one is kind of like palm-like. And so those are the ones I repotted because I had them for like 2 or 3 months in there. What they came in, the plastic. These ones didn't come in pots, so I put them in real pots that I got from what's that place called? Target. So those are the plants I repotted today, or potted, I guess would be the correct term, because they weren't in pots before. Sean, can't wait. Good night. And good night. Craig, I'm glad. Sleepiness from to Scotland. Brandon, what made you start doing the podcast? Like, what was your first idea that this is a good idea? So it's kind of like I listened to the radio when I was a kid and I couldn't sleep. And then I've always told people bedtime stories in person. And when I first started listening to podcasts, I was like, oh, why is everything around sleep so serious and intense? Why isn't there anything fun and goofy? But then I didn't think that was a good idea. So I said, no, I said, well, what about like a podcast like that? And then my internal critic, Brandon, said, no, that's a terrible idea. And then I didn't do it. Like literally, this was years before I started the podcast. And so then I said, no, it's a stupid idea. And then it kept bubbling back up like, well, what about that sleep podcast idea? That just seems interesting. And then even Game of Thrones, the idea to use Game of Thrones came like over a year before I started the podcast. It was like, what about if we did this for that podcast? Like you recap these Game of Thrones episodes. And I said, nah, that's what? And eventually the idea just came back up so many times that I was like, um, I kept thinking about it and kind of fantasizing, well, maybe that is a good idea. Maybe what would it be? Would people listen? Does it matter if people listen? Would I make it? And then eventually, like I had some other creative projects I was writing for, and I had that time set aside. And one of the projects was collaborative, and it didn't work. We decided to part ways. And I said, some part of me was like, what if you make the podcast at that time? And so then I started making it and just kind of learning as I went. And I think it took about 150 episodes for like the version of the podcast, maybe even longer for the intro. But so like right around a year, like the structure of the podcast maybe started to formulate, maybe even longer. And then I think like yeah, it eventually became what it is now. It's always slowly evolving. Let's see. That's Brandon's question. Amber, I didn't realize this was live. You're the best. Thanks. I'm happy to help, Amber. Pickle Girl just got here. Preschool choir. That's pretty good. Let's see. Heidi, my family proud of you for my success with the podcast. Yeah, they're pretty proud of me. Like, I've had a rough adult. I've had a tough time being an adult up until the podcast, and so it fits very well with the kind of person I am. A lot of my family members use the podcast to fall asleep, more situationally. I think maybe my mom uses it pretty regularly, a regular basis, but other people in my family like use it depending on what their stress level is. And yeah, it's just like that's something that's weird. Like I am weird, has become a way. Yeah, they're proud. I mean, they're relieved, I think, in some sense too. Let's see, Philip. Hi. Yeah. Any other questions? Anybody that just popped in, like Philip, Pickle Girl, Amber, have any questions? Heidi, if you have any other questions. Let's see. Philip, I'm about to go to sleep. Okay, good night, Philip. Sleep well. Kathleen, am I happy about where I'm at with the podcast in my career? I hope so. I mean, definitely the podcast is like very close, like to being what I would say is like self-sustainable, like just a couple of sponsors away. And the Patreon just continues to stay, like the Patreon continues to kind of grow with the podcast, like at the same rate. So it's kind of, the Patreon's kind of fixed, like at a percentage of the audience. But we're just like a couple of sponsors away, like from the podcast being like, okay, like I can breathe easy. Like, so, and I guess as an overthinker and then with my, like really wanting the podcast to be like sustainable, maybe I'm just like almost asking for too much, for it to be for clarity. So, I tend to get stressed about that but I think a lot of it's just my stress. And then as far as career goes, I'm trying to, do the live show and do some other stuff tangentially related to podcasts and like get those skills. So I'm pretty happy career wise. Like I think I have to step outside of my comfort zone a little bit more. But like I think I mean doing the live show, I'm almost up to like doing that for a year on a monthly basis, and then doing PodX, and I spoke at to a residential college this past week. So I'm developing those skills still. So yeah, that's I'm happy. Like and yeah, it's like that. It's like the podcast is just like there. That like I mean, we'll still have. I mean, it'll still be like more reliant on advertisers sticking with us and stuff. But it is like we're really like where it's like almost like I can direct some of the money to hire somebody. That would be really cool. Like it's been something I've been putting off and stuff for a while. So that'll be another good sign. That'll just cut back like on my schedule a little bit, and able a podcast to flourish. I guess, Kathleen, to answer your question, is like, for me, it's like I want it to flourish. Okay. Do you listen to your own podcast at night? Pickle Girl asks. I don't. I mean, I do if like someone like says something online and I'm like, oh, what are they talking about? I'll listen to it. But otherwise, yeah, I don't listen. If I'm staying at a hotel or I stayed at a Motel 6 like the other day, I'll listen to I'll blast like Pink Noise or Ocean Waves. But yeah, I definitely can't sleep to the podcast, just because I'm like too focused on like the construction of it and like, oh, what did I say? Oh, what could I have done? Or, oh, maybe I should write that down. Not in a critical way. I listen a couple times before it comes out. And I mean, once I'm listening to it, it's out of my control. The show, it's more of like, oh, what if I need to make any changes editing? But yeah, usually I'm just paying too close attention to those, podcasts as well. What are some favorite bands? I mean, this week I've been like listening to like Ween and Old 97s. So that probably currently I got like some nostalgia fixes for those two. John, thank you. I'm glad. Let's see. Oh, do you enjoy the live shows? I do, are they awkward or fun? I do enjoy them. The preparation for them is Heidi is it does take a lot to and actually the last live show, I kind of felt like another piece kind of fell into place. It's like to do an hour live show, it's almost like I need an hour and a half of material, not like in order, because there's so many other variables because it's not edited, that if I have an hour and a half of solid Sleep With Me material, then like if I get tripped up, I always have somewhere to go. So the show's always flowing. So that was the first show that actually at the end of the show, one of the people that doesn't listen to the podcast, who was a guest of a friend of mine, she said, that was 55 minutes. What you got to be kidding me. Like, she's like, she was looking at her watch. She's like, this is not possible that 55 minutes went by. It didn't feel, she's like, that felt like 10 minutes. So it's definitely a learning experience. I think it's very fun. It's just, it's challenging. I don't know if awkward. Now I've done enough of them that it feels less awkward. I mean, I definitely get nervous. And then I'm always like, have I done enough preparation and rehearsal for the show? And do I have enough material? And is the show going to be solid? But I think it's fun because it was something I didn't think I was capable of doing, and that I was just too scared and not strong enough emotionally to be able to do it. And now I'm like, oh, this is just another thing you learn how to do. And even though I knew that was true, and people said, oh, it's just something you learn how to do and you just practice and it gets easier. Yeah. And it's fun trying to figure out like new elements. Like I want to do a drawing element at the next live show. I mean, bringing drawings. So, yeah. So yeah, it's fun. What do you want to happen next on your podcast? I mean, just get to a few more sponsors so that I feel like the show that can ensure that we can stay at 8 episodes a month. And I just want to keep the show from having to go behind a paywall. So I just wanted enough sponsors, like one episode or whatever, so that I know that podcast is safe from that. And just keep having fun and creating and doing different collaborations and keep the show going. If I didn't make podcasts, what would I be doing now? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think this is the journey that I got led on. So I don't know if I think this is probably the same thing I'm doing in all the alternative universes. Cause yeah, I don't know like it was about a winding journey to get here. And yeah, I don't know what I'd be doing. I mean, I was writing like YouTube stuff and screenplays before I wrote the podcast. But that didn't work out to something that was it was more than a hobby. So, Amber, any plans to come to the East Coast for the live show? I mean, it's a goal for sure, and the show is definitely getting to the point where I feel like it's like I have like 2 or 3 shows now. Let's see, definitely have 2 shows, maybe this third one, like tourable tourable shows. Um, and then some other ideas. I'd like to draw it out. Like right now, it's an hour show, so it's like, oh, like what would an opening act for Sleep With Me be, or would there be another 30-minute segment I would do, or and then it's just a matter of like the one thing that is hard for Sleep With Me is that everybody's asleep, so it's like, how do we get someone to support the tour, and how do we get the tickets sold? Because everybody's just, like, it's just like, it sounds funny, but it's like a real challenge. Like we have a giant in the big East Coast cities, our audience is huge. Like where in a city like New York or Boston, DC, Chicago, it's not on the East Coast, but those audiences are very, very large. And here in San Francisco, but it's like converting that from it's always just been a challenge with the podcast, but definitely doing short tours, like kind of like McElroy's do, like 4 or 5 city tours, is something like that's on the wish list. It's just a matter of like getting a promoter or getting something involved so that it's not. There's just been so much speculative risk with Sleep With Me that it's like, oh yeah, if I do a tour, it'd be like something that's a little bit less like risky financially or whatever. But yeah, it'll happen. Just a matter of time, Amber. So how was your day? Pickle Girl, you mean my day today? Today was usually today's a busy day, but it was beautiful weather. The dog sat, went for a run. I potted plants. I worked on the podcast. I'm going to work on the podcast some more. But pretty good day. Hi, Mary Beth. Coming to Minneapolis and Cleveland. Yeah, I think again, I'm not. I think those are big cities. We'll see. Like, I mean, I'm definitely like Minneapolis and Cleveland, because there's not many. Like, we'll see with PodX, like too, like how many people show up to the show. Like that'll give me a gauge because of like, oh, okay. But yeah, I think that's it. Does anybody else have any last minute questions? Any other follow up questions? All those, like I was trying to answer. What's the best sleep attire? That is a setup question, C Rush. I mean, come on. Depends on whatever works for you. I mean, I'm a minimalist myself, but that doesn't mean nothing. The minimalist, but not a nadaist. But I mean, for some people, they like to be more clothed and snuggled up. Anything more on the All Thank You episode? Not yet. It's just like sometimes it's hard, Mary Beth, like with like all of the strong opinions around the show, for me to decide stuff like that. Like, because it's like I can't. It would just be a patron only thing, but there's still like even in that, just with the super deluxe episodes, like the inbound I get from those, it's always like trying to see but at some point maybe I have a couple. Let's see. I don't have a long plane ride think I have a long plane ride in like 2 weeks. So maybe I could edit an episode together and see what the mix sounds like, because it's like, oh, well, those are very short takes is the thing. So it's like finding those short takes that would like fit together. I have to see. Hold on 1 second. My phone is buzzing. Let's see. Okay. Anything more all night? Anything with the Sleep With Me logo? Yeah. Brandon asked, was it difficult getting started doing the podcast? Not. It was more Brandon. It was like, I mean, there's a learning curve for sure. So, but it wasn't. It was difficult getting over the fear to start it. Like so that was harder. But like learning it and recording it and all that stuff, you could kind of learn on YouTube and for free, and listening to podcasts and stuff. So it was more like having the emotional rigor or resilience to try and then to put it out on a regular basis. But once I decided to do that, it was a matter of just like keeping doing it as I slowly got better. I think the hardest part is starting. That's why that new podcast I was talking about, Start With This. It's like just start, and then everything's a little bit easier from there. Some of your thank yous are hilarious. Thank you, Pickle Girl. How did you decide that you wanted to start out on YouTube? I started out more on just podcasts, Pickle Girl, than YouTube, just audio only. And like then and then like added on YouTube as just a way to kind of connect with the patrons, and then started opening these up to everybody, just so people kind of can ask questions. Like it's a little bit easier for me to answer questions in real time like this, because I keep I try to get back to everybody that reaches out to me, but it's not always easy. And then sometimes it's not hard to, like, these kind of questions are easier to answer here in person than like if somebody was to email me a question. I don't necessarily know that I could always answer it in as clear and concise a way as I'm doing now. So yeah, that's what made me want to start on YouTube, is just trying to be available to answer questions and keep the listeners, try to make this a two-way thing best I can. Let's see. Yeah, we'll see, Mary Beth. We'll figure it out. Heidi asked if I talked to Brad Bradderson. Yeah, I'd like to get into doing another seminar episode soon. That one with the stepping stones or whatever really worked out good. But they must be, into content marketing and stuff, because they haven't reached out to me. So they must have a full budget or something. Deirdre asks, oh yeah, I'm okay. I mean, I'm like physically and emotionally in good shape. And I do have so I'm taking good care of myself, Deirdre, but I also always overthink things. So I think I'm like a mix, great. I'm a human being. Let's see. I don't know what that means. Hey, Mimi, how are you? Let's see. Have people on the streets ever recognize me? Talked about this on a recent episode. Not really. Someone recognized me in IKEA. This was like 6 months ago. But that's the closest thing. I recognized someone. Who recognized, I gave a talk at a school recently, a university, and someone came in to the talk that I recognized, but they only popped in and then left. But I thought it was cool. It was someone I recognized from other performances I've done. But yeah, not too much. I mean, somebody else recognized the sticker on my computer on the plane and then asked me if I made Sleep With Me. And then at live shows, I thought about I tried doing a test recording in IKEA, and there's just so many people, and then I don't have like I can't get any like I don't have a clearance to record. So it would be like having to get IKEA on board, and then having a producer. So maybe down the road when I hire somebody, like I would like to do stuff in museums and stuff. Um, but yeah, I've done IKEA ones. Uh, cool. Hi, Dipper. All right, Amber. Oof. My weekly mileage is just congratulations on the Chicago Marathon. I don't right now. I'm not in a mileage tracking, so right now I just like today I ran 60 minutes. I mean, I'm pretty sure I knew I ran further than last Sunday on my 60 minutes. So it's like I know the building that I got to this Sunday for my turnaround point at 30 minutes, and then it's like or last Sunday I got to that building. This Sunday I got to that sign. I mean, the problem is my phone's so old, like I can't use any of the running apps. So when I get a new phone, like I'm going to start tracking my mileage in July, because that's when I want to start adding miles to get up to not get up to a full marathon. But so Sunday I just do a long 60-minute run, and ideally I'm getting in better shape, and then I'm doing like a pace run like on the weekdays. Yeah, it's like Pickle Girl, how it's going with Trader Joe's. It's like, yo, Trader Joe's, how about it? Oh, if you're a patron, Thursday night is when we're doing the live stream. Am I wearing sunscreen? Yeah. I like using this sunscreen. It gets in my eyes, the sunscreen I use. But so I got to find another sunscreen. But yeah, I slather that stuff on. Okay. That's unnecessary. Cool. So any other questions come out? Any other questions? Yes. Thank you, Mary Beth. Thank you, Pickle Girl. Yeah. I got to find other sunscreen that doesn't blind me. Cool. Well, everybody get a good night's sleep. Thank you so much for participating. Koa is named after, I think, something. I adopted Koa as an adult, so I did not pick her name. Let me just see. I think another question came up on Patreon. Thanks, Pickle Girl. Thanks, Mary Beth. Hanan, is that correct? Thank you. So Koa, I think it's named after something in Australia. I don't know if it's like I think it's not Australia. Excuse me. It's a Hawaiian word. What do you use for my stubble? That's a good question, because I think I'm going to see my mom in a week. So I might actually, like, usually, like, I'll shave with a razor like 3 times a year. So I may shave tomorrow or tonight with the actual razor. I use whatever. It was on sale on Amazon. I don't know if it's like just like one of the ones you what is it called? I don't think it's a Norelco. It might be a Remington, but it's like a cordless one that you got to plug in to charge. Works pretty good. It actually works good because someone else gave me one, and they're like, "Hey, I got this for free. Like, why don't you have it?" And I tried it, and it wasn't as good as the other one. Mine would be pretty good, Mary Beth. Actually, like that's right. Like like with the local live shows, I don't have any budget because I'm just trying to break even. But like eventually, I'd like to get to the point where I could pay like someone for a few opening minutes. Okay, there are questions on here. Still wish you could commit to a regular time preview. Yeah, these are questions that came up on the thing. Podcast is like a weighted blanket. My husband likes to sleep under thin blankets. I have a weighted My husband likes to sleep under blankets unless it's. So I got a twin-sided weighted blanket on my side of the bed. Would it fall off with me in it? Also, anyone have any cats? Do they like to sleep on? Does anyone have any cats that sleep on the top of their weighted blankets? Also, yeah, I mean, weighted blankets can get hot. That was a hot weighted blanket thing. Whole milk Trader Joe's yogurt. I'm gonna have to try that. Okay, let me see. Ever self-conscious in my videos? Not anymore. I mean, when people are super harsh, like, mostly I'm recording the podcast, Pickle Girl, so these videos are like Q&A, so it's like I'm not super self-conscious. And with the podcast, I get so much inbound unpleasantness that I've kind of done it for 6 years. So for the most part, it still hurts my feelings and stuff, but I don't get super self-conscious. But again, it took a long time. Yeah, Caroline, just occasionally, like when I can. Christian, can Jesus microwave? I don't think so. I don't think a microwave could get that hot. Or like if it was like an almighty, if it was Jesus, that Jesus would know better than to make it too hot. Whole milk Trader Joe's. Nope, I wish. My dog doesn't like my weighted blanket. Yeah, I don't think animals like weighted blankets. I'll throw a blanket on her, but not a weighted one. Weighted blankets aren't for everybody. Do I like pickles? Dill pickles, not sweet pickles, though. I love dill pickles. I'm glad that I can put you to sleep, Hanan. Cool. Any other questions? Anybody else have any other questions? I'm going to give it till 6:45 here. Thanks everybody for sticking around. This was this live stream almost ran out of gas, and then we hit a second round of questions. Sushi, I do like sushi, but I'm allergic to shellfish, so it makes eating sushi interesting. So I like sashimi and sushi, but rolls can be a dangerous thing because a lot of rolls have crab in them or shrimp. But I love sliced fish. What is my favorite food? Pizza, for sure, I think. Yeah, pizza. Cool. Well, everybody get a good night's sleep. Pizza, pepperoni pizza, probably, from Marley G's in Alameda right now. Thank you. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Pickle Girl, Christian, everybody for the great questions. Mary Beth, Heidi, Deirdre. I think we didn't have too many comments we had to toss out of here. Everybody else that had questions, get a good night's sleep. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon whenever you queue it up. Thanks. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. You're so proud we could